where you will await execution by lethal injection.
Cringe at its vices. These creatures are lethal.
What powders are lethal to maggots and fly-struck merinos?
And lethal devices called pods.
Died from lethal injection last
6'7",
night.
300 pounds in lethal.
Arrange more lethal matches.
Back in a gigantic multiverse, which is mostly lethal.
Lethal force and the delusional homeless.
Not only is it lethal, but the venom of a tracker-jacker sting.
Are you pointing your weapon at me with lethal intention?
In 15 seconds, you will receive a lethal injection and you will die.
Handed to Illinois State Penitentiary at Menard, where you will await execution by lethal injection on a date to be set forth by the Attorney General of...
Animal with a human voice. If it were human, an animal would cringe at its vices. These creatures are lethal and lecherous. They will have to be subdued by the sword.
She knows feedstock, haberdashery, and what powders are lethal to maggots and fly-struck merinos.
I'm afraid William will have to look much further. President Snow is building a minefield of traps and lethal devices called pods. The sadistic inventions of game makers meant to make...
Ann Sherman died from lethal injection last night for the murder of Harriet Lawler. Her last words were, "It was worth it."
Get in, I want to show you something. Yeah?
He's 6'7", 300 pounds in lethal. Do not take this guy on. From what it...
We've kidnapped some military programs. I can arrange more illegal matches. Interested?
Sure. I'd love to go up against one of
The
them.
universe is a tiny little minuscule speck in a gigantic multiverse, which is mostly lethal. That's a polar opposite philosophy for what the universe...
Here's what you don't do your first day on the beat. Use lethal force and the delusional homeless.
Not only is it lethal, but the venom of a tracker-jacker sting. Produce powerful hallucinations.
Get carried away with your dramatic gesture, or are you pointing your weapon at me with lethal intention?
Last chance, fancy pants.
And the third question.
In 15 seconds, you will receive a lethal injection and you will die. Do you wish to proceed? Yes. Press.
You know what else they use that needle for? Lethal injection. Yeah. See, it paralyzes you. But just think.
To Rayford Penitentiary's death row, where he is scheduled to die by lethal injection March 16th. I'm Robin Wagner, reporting from Manatee River.
Bruh, we need to consider the possibilities.
Well, one possibility is we've all been dosed with lethal amounts of radiation that, could have killed Mr. B.
Citizens of the colony are to be considered hostile. Program all synthetics to use lethal force. Repeat, citizens of the colony are to be considered hostile.
There have always been limitations. Stable diseases aren't lethal. Deadly ones burn out too quickly.
I can't do that.
I don't think either of us would enjoy spending the rest of our lives on death row or a lethal injection. Who had taught him their dark powers and trained him in their lethal arts of killing.
The land animal is nothing by comparison. Even the weakest sea snake is invariably lethal.
Is that supposed to make me feel good, Beth?
And all that, killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Hey, look, friend, let's just cut the shit. Now,
What did Moses do to earn a lethal finding?
I have not been read into it. I like you.
Jimmy Winslow coming back with his tail between his legs. And on top of that, that blasted Frenchman making coldness look as lethal as a baby's playpen.
That was that thing from the memory in Ultralink. What do we do?
Well, Max, in the face of an unknown enemy, hesitation is lethal.
What are you talking about?
You see, Max, it's battle
It is an alkylating agent and a potent mutagen. It created a virus so lethal the subject was dead before he left the table.
Then a repressor.
I knew it! I knew it'd work! Lethal. Lethal, these snakes. Born killers. No!
The new L pill. L pill? L for lethal. Instantaneous, painless. Much better than the old ones. For capture, of course.
When he's sober, he's dangerous. When he drinks, he's lethal.
attention must not be paid. Fine, I have, shall I say, a thorn in my side. Once merely an irritation, now potentially lethal.
Be lethal in turn?
Well, the problem is such.
They're half-Irish.
Lethal combination.
It didn't take me long to sense there was more.
Of that lovely flower for anything your world has to offer, including an Aston Martin complete with lethal accessories.
You have only contempt for the proletariat, James.
But even if you're right, I mean, infecting the populace with a lethal illness is not exactly a cure.
It's not a cure. It's camouflage.
Police in that hotel room that this was an accidental overdose, a lethal cocktail of alcohol and prescription drugs. The Cincinnati Police Chief Darrell Matthews has called for...
I couldn't keep this quiet on my own. Enter Morris Brandt, the most lethal lawyer in New York.
For my clothes, for foundation, just give me a little dose. Offer up my innocence.
Non-lethal anti-riot guns.
Close up, they'll do some damage.
But here, they're as good as dead already. They've probably received a lethal dose.
What about here?
Oh, it'd be pretty heavy there.
Will result in the immediate court-martial, and if convicted, death by lethal injection.
Gotcha.
Thank you, sir.
Agent Clarice Starling, a 10-year veteran on the Bureau, began her career with an assignment to interview lethal madman Hannibal Lecter. Earlier today, we heard comments from Justice Department spokesman Paul.
Now, yellow belt, right?
Wow.
Is lethal. She is a ninja.
Proud of her.
Now, Henry.
Avoiding humiliation. You'd think folks be scared of prison or lethal injection. Nope.
Well, then I urge you to keep one thing in mind, Stu. Take a look at your chest. You saw how accurate I can be, how lethal.
Look, you kill me now and you give yourself away.
Not with us.
Raptors anyway. What kind of metabolism do they have? What's their growth rate?
They're lethal at 8 months, and I do mean lethal. I've hunted most things that can hunt you, but the way these...
Well, the final chapter will unfold when we bring you extended coverage of this...
I've got to cancel the race. It's lethal out there.
The race is going ahead. Television, right?
A position, what to say, what not to say.
A trained monkey?
A trained monkey who doesn't get lethal injection. Nick, this case is...
Face the final challenge.
What final challenge?
3 devices of such lethal cunning.
Booby traps?
Oh, yes.
Efficiency will rise by no less than 120%. The difference of a 63% increase to lethal proficiency makes the master of the gun carters.
I have to take you for a walk.
I'm glad he protects you. He's a lethal canine.
I love living here, and I refuse to...
The evidence we've cooked up to incriminate Mund, to incriminate him so lethally that his own second-in-command...
Colony is now off the coast, moving southwest across the Pacific.
Apparently Andromeda hasn't turned lethal again. At least there haven't been any reports of bizarre death.
Just a doomsday shroud. A lethal cloud of radioactivity which will encircle the Earth for 90...
Well, now she's something else altogether. All our information indicates a lethal combination of beauty, brains, and ambition.
Well, if it was a toothbrush, I wouldn't ask questions. I'd just quote a price. But then a toothbrush is a non-lethal object, isn't it?
Fair enough.
Seems Alcatraz was just reopened.
Last night, General Hummel, using brutal but non-lethal force under the guise of a security exercise, walked off with...
Last-minute appeals or stays, Consulate will die under the state's new execution procedure, the lethal injection machine, in 11 days.
Louise?
Joshua?
Yes?
How lethal is that bomb?
No, let me check.
Anesthetic, it's colorless and odorless, but lethal in imprecise doses.
I lost 4 doctors that night.
3 of my nurses.
Once we've had our pound of flesh, we're still hungry. We leave the death house muttering that lethal injection was just too good for them. In the end...
Yes, it's harmless. It's like sugar. And yet to a diabetic, sugar can be lethal. You see, the trouble is we don't know to what extent...
Shall I answer chronologically or alphabetically?
Careful not to cut yourself on this lethal envelope.
Another to commit murder. Any person who furnishes the lethal weapon for the purpose of the crime. Any person...
And we find the mephitic fumes of his oratory a lethal challenge to our pulmonary.